Welcome to the next episode of Spilling the Tea in Studio D, and we're gonna got a couple of staff members in here. Shasta, first of all, thank you for filling in for Candace. What we're doing, we're auditioning for a new co-host. So so in the comments below, I've asked folks to comment, and then we'll do a ranking, no pressure. But what I will tell you, with Candace in the mix, you won't be dead last. So remember that, okay?
That's good to know. That's good to know.
You've got a good shot. And Shasta is our pre-K director here in Dawson. And so I've asked her to join in this morning with April Shepard, who is our CTE Coordinator. And I guess, April, thanks for taking time to come in.
Absolutely.
Shasta, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about your background, you know, as far as how you got where you're at, you know, teaching-wise, that kind of stuff. And then, well, first probably need to tell them what CTE is, right?
Right, absolutely. It's career and technical education.
Right.
So we focus on those like agri, facts, business, STEM classes.
Right.
So it's those programs of study that help prepare students for career readiness.
Right, right. So back to you, right? So tell us how, where you started and your path to get to where you're at. How about that?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I've been a CTE teacher, was a CTE teacher for 13 years. My first job was at Amity at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Before
Yeah,
they
gotcha.
consolidated. And I taught facts there for 3 years. Then I went
Was it home ec then, or
Yes.
had it already transitioned to facts?
Yeah.
Family
no,
and consumer science for
was-
those of you in the front row. So
It was home economics.
Okay,
then,
yeah.
So after the 3 years at Amity, I then transferred to Bismarck.
okay,
And I taught for 10 years. So I ventured out a little bit and taught facts there, but also taught career orientation at that time.
right,
And I taught physical science.
gotcha.
So
Wow.
Yeah, I know, a little
Big difference.
big difference.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
quite the load. Yeah.
The one thing about facts is you're really close in your science.
Yeah.
So you have
Oh,
quite
yeah.
a bit of science
Sure.
in your
Yeah.
facts, and so it's not hard to get a second
Yeah.
endorsement.
Right.
But anyway, from that, then I kind of wanted to change. So distance learning specialist position came open at
Right.
Dawson, and I applied for that. Got that, so I worked on the distance learning side for a little bit, and the coordinator at that time left, and I
Right.
applied. So I moved over to a distance learning coordinator position here, and then Ann Wright at that time, she retired, so
Right.
I thought I would try that position. So
Right.
I've been here since 2004.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's quite a path to get here. And Shasta, since nobody knows you, let's go ahead and throw that over to you.
Okay, so I started my career in Malvern. I was a elementary PE teacher for kindergarten through second grade. And then I came to Arkadelphia as the school counselor at Parrott at the primary school. And then the state developed an early childhood behavior intervention specialist job, so I took that with the co-op and did that for about 5 years. No, more about 10. And then
Small difference.
Yeah, small difference.
Who's counting?
Yeah. And then when the ABC coordinator position came open, I accepted that. And so I've been with Dawson. This is my 18th year with Dawson.
Wow.
Totally 23rd year total. So
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
that's kind of how I'm here.
Well, what's interesting, I just learned something about y'all. Career orientations, I taught that. PE,
Okay.
I taught that. So got a little more in common. Not that anything you ever have in common with me is a good thing. I'm just saying, I'm just fact stating. I mean, we have that in common. So, you know, the thing I've noticed, this is year 28 for me in education, and it kind of ebbs and flows. And I don't know, what would you say, probably the last 8-10 years, the emphasis on the career and technical education is really picking up steam, if you will.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
And with that being said, this year probably more so. I know it's a big push for the governor. Is the CTE piece. So, what are some of the things that you do, you know, to help our districts out within the co-op?
Sure. Each district gets a certain amount of allocation for federal funding. We call it Perkins federal funding. And so we have 21 districts out of the Dawson 22
Right.
that are joining our Perkins Consortia. So what I will do with that is look for each district and do a needs assessment on the
Mhm.
district to see how do they need their money spent. Is
Right.
it in curriculum? Is it in equipment? Is it in
Right.
professional development? And so that's one way that I do. Also, we conduct professional development for
Mhm.
teachers. We do a mentorship program where students that are going through a work-based learning program, if they don't have a teacher on site that's
Right.
licensed, we do a mentorship program to work with those teachers to get them licensed and endorsed. We're on an as-needed basis, so
Right.
if there's something that maybe
Yeah.
we aren't providing for every district and they want something that's kind of off to the side, then we'll do that as
Right.
well, so.
Right. Well, I mean, excluding facts, because you've been a facts
Mm-hmm.
teacher. So, what's one of your more, I guess, recent or not, could have been around a while, favorite CTE programs that's floating around out there?
I laugh, people laugh when they hear me do this, but I'm an agri person.
right,
You
yeah,
and I've
sure,
had that
yeah,
discussion
yeah.
before. People about me, he knows, but
Mhm.
tractors, I love to drive
right,
tractors. I love
yeah.
being outside.
There's no more better therapy in the whole wide world for me than getting some quality time with Dr. Kubota bush hogging.
Yes, my most favorite. But just looking around, I love being outdoors.
Mhm.
I love the plant aspect of it. So
Right.
if I had it all to do over again, I would probably pursue that career as
Right,
well.
right. And I will say this within and maybe it's just a statistic I didn't really look at, but within the last 3 to 5 years, the number of female ag instructors has increased somewhat.
Yes.
And they've got some of the better programs.
They do. We have Magnet Cove. We have a female
Mm-hmm.
teacher there. She's got all the programs of study
Mm-hmm.
and doing a stellar job. Centerpoint just hired a female
Mhm.
ag teacher there, so we're excited about having her on board. But yes, absolutely. It's a field where more women are entering
Right.
in now.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the other thing I think that's pretty cool is just the programs offered, i.e., dog grooming, construction, and what was the other one I was thinking the other day? But those are two that really stick out in my mind in recent memory. And I talked to one of the dog grooming students, and they were so jazzed about it. They're like, man, when I walk out of high school, I'm going to get the equipment, going to have the trailer, working on the trailer already, I think, and said, so I'll be ready to hit the road running when I get out of here. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an entrepreneurial. What
Yeah.
they're doing at like Hamilton is they do have that dog grooming business to where, and with the new thing that just passed yesterday with the commissioner's memo, the community service hours that
Yes.
students
Oh,
are
yeah.
going to have to
Right.
take. What is it, 25, 26
Right.
maybe?
Mhm.
That's something that will help factor into that with the
Oh, yeah.
students.
Yeah.
That they open theirs up to the community. So if they want to bring their animals in, and looking at a startup grant to help with the Humane Society too,
Right.
because
Yeah.
they want to extend out for MagnaWave,
Yeah.
which is a electric pulse that helps muscles that have been
Oh,
sore.
wow.
So the possibilities to expand that program
Wow,
are
that's
exponential.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that my son, who graduated, he's a coach teacher, he was, and they wanted him to teach career orientation. So he went through the mentoring program with another co-op
Mhm.
to get licensed, and taught the career orientation, and got it added on his license through the mentoring program. So it's a
Great.
really,
Yeah.
really good program.
Well, and the thing with career orientation, I mean, what's the number one thing when you're talking to 8th graders about careers? What do you want to be? NFL, NBA.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, besides that,
Yes.
And but in the career possibilities now, I mean, somebody said it like this one time. I mean, there's more careers being created every single day than probably existed
That
than
is correct.
when they were young folks.
Absolutely.
So, and just in the world of technology alone, I mean, like the gaming, all that kind of stuff, it just blows my mind. Speaking of the gaming thing, I saw a kid the other day was going to go to college on a scholarship, but had already won like $2 million in quote unquote career earnings. And I'm
Yes.
thinking, I still think, a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew and a bag of Doritos playing whatever, So, but yeah, it's big time, I guess. From the career standpoint, I think exposure. I mean, that's a big piece. And talk about the importance maybe of the local businesses and the part they play in helping that program along.
Yeah, the businesses play a huge part. They help drive the curriculum. So, depending on what a certain business would need, they can work with their local CTE teacher in that program area to work together to make sure that those students, whenever they're graduating, they have those particular elements that the business is looking for.
Yeah. Well, and this is probably a perfect time to talk about a little bit about the career ready. I mean, it still amazes me, I guess, that as few communities know about the ACT career ready. Am I saying that right? Is that the
Work
program?
Ready Community.
Work Ready Community. I'll get it right in a minute. Yes. So talk about what that looks like, and even locally, what that looks like.
All right. Yeah. ACT is a program that they work with communities in the state of Arkansas. And Arkansas has several communities, but the way that works is that there's curriculum called Work Keys. And the Work Keys focuses on literacy and graphics, but the curriculum focuses on those particular standards that are needed across the board for all different workplace environments. But depending on how the student goes through the curriculum, how they test, you can profile the students, and they will have these assets, like they will get a certificate. They could get a silver, a bronze, platinum, or gold. And those certificates will let that student have or show a business that student has these certain characteristics, and they will profile to a job. So as far as training a student, if a student has a certain degree and have these criteria, they can move the student up to a certain level within the organization. So if what we did here in Clark County, each county is a little bit different, but if you want to be what's called a work-ready community, then you work with your businesses and you talk about the curriculum and how it can align with their business.
Right.
And so the students that are taking these assessments, if they are wanting to go work for these businesses, they will take what's called the ACT, the National Career Readiness Certificate. They will take the test, and then they will receive their certificate, and then based on the businesses, they can go to work for these businesses if they have the criteria they're looking for. But Clark County is almost there. If you've met all the criteria that ACTE sets forth, you become a gold certified community. And the piece that we're missing in Clark County is the GED students, the transitioning piece, and we're almost there. We're working with the chamber and some other people here in the community to finish up, to become gold certified. But all of the counties on the east side of our state, they are gold certified, and now it's going across our state. So more counties are getting involved now. We've got Garland County that's looking to be an ACT Work Ready community, and Hot Spring County.
Well, and like I say, had I not been on, I guess, the ACT State Council, I'd never heard of it, and then we started talking about it. You knew a little bit about it. But that was the amazing thing to me, was that east side. I mean, you literally could have taken a pen and just drawn down the east side of Arkansas, and those folks were doing it. And we were talking, well, they can do it, we can do it, right? But I think it's the thing that I've enjoyed watching is just the relationship piece between the businesses, and I think Clark County is very blessed in that. Have a good work. You have done a great job getting a good working relationship with them, and they're quite honest when we sit down and say, "Hey, what are you looking for? What do you need?"
Yes.
And they need to be.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
But I think it's going to be interesting, like you're saying, watch it unfold and hopefully expand a little bit. So. At the end of the day, I just believe in that. Those kids that are coming out and ready to work, willing to work, are probably working some of them probably working now, for them. So it's a good chance for them to, I guess, expedite their promotion kind of thing. So, As far as preparation for CTE courses, how important would you say it is to get rolling in high school?
Yeah, well, I've been telling our schools to even let's go down to a foundational level if we
yeah.
can. So 7th and 8th grade, we
Right.
have some foundational courses
Yeah.
that you can offer if schedule
Sure.
allows.
Yeah.
And it will introduce some of the students to, the beginning of ag, the beginning of facts, the beginning
Right.
of business. So at that level, you can start deciding and playing to see which area would you find
Right.
most interest in. And then by the time you get in 9th grade, you can really start taking those classes that focus on that particular pathway and do
Right.
a deeper dive. With Perkins 5 now, which that's the new legislation that is tied to the federal funding, one thing that we have to do is have the rigor and the relevance
Yeah.
in the courses, and they have to build upon one another. So by the time they get to 9th grade, if they had the foundational courses, by the time they get to the 9th grade, then they'll be able to start with that foundational class in a specific
Right.
pathway.
Sure.
And by the time they get to their senior year, hopefully they've acquired some certificates that will allow them proficiency in certain areas. And I'm going to go back to ag. For example, if they're taking OSHA in 9th or 10th or 11th grade, then that's something that's across the board. It's ag specific, yes, but it can go a lot of other ways
Right.
as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's a big thing right now with CTE, is making sure the students receive certification before
Yeah.
they graduate.
Yeah. Well, I've been in a couple of districts where, as far as certification, not only was it the OSHA, the safety and what have you, there was one district in particular, though, that they were working with high school juniors and seniors to go ahead and get their whatever it takes to, their forklift driving.
Yes.
There are some schools doing a great job with it. And I think, in today's world, I think about certain things we're always going to need, right? We're going to need food. We're going to need power, so electricians, plumbers, and those kinds of things. And but it's kind of been neat too, watching some of the districts get creative, like the dog grooming, and seeing the need out there. I think
Right.
that's always a good sign that they're in touch with it. So, CTE, it ain't your mama's CTE, right? It's advancing, as we
It is.
say.
And one of the things because of course when Turner was teaching career orientation, I helped look at some of the stuff. And one of the things that I was really impressed with was it talks about work ethic and things like email etiquette and phone and just preparing like your lifestyle. What kind of career are you going to need to meet? And kids don't think about that. Adults don't think about that.
No,
So,
you're absolutely right.
I think that's so good to teach kids at that age, in 8th grade, hey, this is what it means, especially with all the technology they have, that a professional email is way different than a text that you send your friends.
There's no reverse on the keyboard.
Right.
Once you hit send, it's gone. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So they're just that basics was, I thought, this is fantastic for kids to have. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep,
And-
it's across the board. I think all the employers, we do regional advisory meetings every 2 years. We bring the businesses in so they can tell the teachers what they're looking for. Every year we hear it's those soft skills.
Oh, absolutely.
I can train them, but I need them to have those soft skills, be on time,
Yeah.
be drug free. So
Well, and I think too, and COVID really hit this point as far as a soft skill I would consider, but it's just the ability to work with others.
Yes.
When everybody went home, it's like they're having to reteach that. So being on time, pass the drug test, shake a hand,
Teamwork,
look them in the eye, kind of thing.
communication.
Absolutely.
Communication that's not by text or,
Yes.
because kids don't talk like they used
No.
to each other or adults or,
No. Well, and a lot of the businesses to some degree are, flexible, and that's how they do communicate, so, and it's a different world out there. But the thing I love about ag and some of those things, like for instance, when I was at Fountain Lake, had a pretty strong welding program, and these folks may or may not go into ag, but they thought they wanted to go through there to be able to have that tool in their chest, if something were to go break down at home and they needed to, one of those things. So
Yeah, absolutely. Small engine, I think, power structures is the one that I try to get across the board because it's the small engines, like you
Right,
said.
yeah.
Everybody's got to mow their lawn or
Yeah.
have a weed eater,
Right.
changing a flat. We're all
Mhm.
going to maybe have to
Yeah.
experience that at some point.
Yeah.
So it's just the basics, how to change a light fixture if you need to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, well, and it's, like I said, it's certainly an emphasis in the world of education now, because I think statistically, if you look at the number of students going to 2 and 4 year colleges, I mean, there's been a dip. So they're going somewhere, and then that somewhere is the workforce. And if we don't prepare them, I mean, that's on us. That's how I look at it. So, but the thing I love, I know the other program I was going to talk about was Centerpoint, with the meat pack and that kind of thing, which is really cool. But the ones, we have some solid programs within our co-op. But the coolest thing, like you said earlier, they really do a good job of kind of working with the community,
Right.
and seeing what their needs are. So, the Haskell Harmony Grove, I had to think of the new name. But with their construction thing that they did, I had no idea until I went over there.
Yes.
Where they bought land, built a house,
Oh.
put a faculty
didn't
member
know
in it.
that either.
Yeah, and then they take the proceeds from that house and roll it into the next one, and it's affordable housing for new teachers, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. The day I was out there, I think they were, they were pouring concrete and trenching for some electrical stuff. I was like, man, that's amazing. I didn't know that was going on.
Yeah,
So,
they just finished their last house last year.
Yeah.
And we walked, I think it was in the fall, yeah. We had to do a site visit there, and Lane Chancellor is the
Right.
name of the teacher that has that program. He said, hey, come look at my house. We just finished it. And I said, okay. So
Yeah.
we went over there to see it, and it's a wow. I mean,
Yeah.
it blew me away because it
Yeah.
was a 2-story house.
Mhm.
It's white,
yeah.
it's black shutters. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And those kids built
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Those are great skills to have.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can remember ran into one of the students. He was HVAC with an HVAC company, but said that's where he first got interested in that, and was exposed again to it. So, and it's because they work with licensed electricians, HVAC folks help them get it done or what have you. But yeah, I never knew that existed. But again, it was a great, for a small school, kind of a recruiting tool. Again, new house. It's, houses aren't cheap, but affordable.
right.
More affordable. Let's say it that way for teachers.
Yes,
So,
well, Lane stands by it, and he's a great teacher, but he bought one of the houses
Oh, yeah.
that he built, and
Mhm.
so they work with licensed contractors, so the students kind of like a mentorship.
Right.
They're not the ones building all of the house,
Sure.
but they're
Right.
the ones working with those to
Right,
contract out.
yeah.
So they get the skills, and they get
Yeah,
to see
yeah.
firsthand what all is involved in that. But yeah,
Yeah.
they have a great program.
I was laughing the day I was out there. They were trenching for whatever reason. I think it was to run some electrical stuff or whatever, and they had some kind of tool that I don't know broke down, but he had them out there with a pick and axe and a shovel, going old school, and they were like, "Wait, what is this?" Kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah. So, well, I'll pose this to both of y'all. Y'all both Arkadelphia girls, right?
Yes.
So I know you and I are real close on age. Shasta's a little younger. But in the time that you all have been in education in Arkadelphia, talk about maybe some of the biggest changes that you've seen. You may even the perspective of being, when you were a student versus now.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Some of the changes.
I think technology's got to be somewhere at
Well,
the top.
I was going
right?
to say that, but yeah, most definitely that is at the top. The one thing that I think I'm happy about that hasn't changed is when I was graduating, I don't know, we did a program called DECA, which we still have
Oh, yeah.
DECA.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
we
did.
went to work afterwards. We still have that in place now.
Oh, wow,
Which
yeah.
that's things have changed, the outline of that, but I really liked that they've kept that because it's helped me a lot when I was in high school. And then I learned those skills that I needed going forward, and it helped me in college. I kept the job I had in high school. I go through
Oh, wow.
college to
Yeah.
help me get through with that. But I think technology is good and bad.
Mhm.
Technology helps to make things a lot easier.
When it works.
Yes, when it works. But on the downside, like Shasta was saying earlier about communication, it's changed the communication that our students have, and the eye-to-eye contact and the
Yeah.
conversation. That piece is what I'm seeing that is missing. But Arkadelphia, the facilities have changed so much, and they're offering so much more
They
than
are.
what I don't know.
Yeah, me
about-
too. I remember, taking career orientation in like 7th or 8th grade, but then when we got to high school, it was just the basic English, math, those types of courses.
And the only CTE related thing probably was like a business math or a keyboarding or
Yes,
something.
I had business, math, keyboard. I did have home ec and learned how to sew some curtains
Mm.
and make an omelet.
Yeah.
Where I remember were two things, but there's just so much more opportunity. Too, I think. Besides that, too, like from a extracurricular standpoint,
Sure.
there's a lot more extracurricular things. I think, we used to, as far as sports, play just certain schools that were the same schools all the time, and now
Right.
we've kind of branched out.
Oh,
Schools
yeah.
have gotten bigger, schools have gotten smaller.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about Arkadelphia's new facilities that they're building,
Yeah.
because
Right.
the same facilities were there when
Right.
we were
went
all
to
there.
school.
Yeah.
So they are getting some new facilities that they're, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that for
Yeah.
them.
And I think a lot of times, excuse me, we kind of take that for granted. But a new building to a kid, I mean, believe it or not, I don't care if it's the worst kid as far as not wanting to be there. They still have a level of excitement about wanting to go to school and being
Sure.
a part of it. And facilities are, I mean, in my mind, it's a big part of the overall probably academic advantage. And schools are designed so differently now. I mean, there's lots of open concepts. I can remember, when the tornado took down, what was the town in Missouri? Joplin.
Oh, yeah.
And have you been through their high school since the new
No.
one? But they designed the new one, like even in the hallways. There was not an unused space in there, but they I remember their fine arts building. They could open the back of the stage, and it was an amphitheater, but they would have staircases with wide stairs that could be used as an extra classroom.
Wow.
Yeah, so so the facilities, I think, are they've kind of caught up with the times.
Yeah,
And-
think about plugs. In
Oh,
old schools,
sure.
there's
Yeah.
like 2 wall outlets
Yeah.
per,
Yeah.
the whole classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah, you sure didn't have anything to charge your phone on.
no.
No, no, and I mean I'm dating. I think we're the same age, but I took typing. Remember
Mhm.
old
Oh, yeah.
typewriter? That was a high school
Yeah,
class.
I think it was my junior year. We got that old Radio Shack. What was it, a VIC 64 or whatever it was, computer, and we programmed, and we only had one. So with a class of 20 something, it took forever to get everybody around it. But yeah. In the typing class, I took that. I'm glad I did. That's one of those skills throughout life.
Right, absolutely. And we
Yeah.
moved that down to 7th and 8th grade now,
Yeah,
which,
yeah.
like you said, with technology, they have to learn earlier.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, they need to teach them to type other than this, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's how I was talking to my youngest, and I was telling him that we used to write papers, and we would write them, and then he would say, "Well, did you turn them in typed?" I said, "Yeah, we would write them first and then type them." And he's like, "What?" That's
Yeah.
mind blowing to
Yeah.
him,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's like, "Why would you not just type?" I'm like, "Typewriter, it was not the same.
No.
We couldn't just
No.
type. We had
Yeah.
to write."
Oh, yeah.
Because in college, I typed people's pages.
Yeah.
And that's what got the conversation started. He said, "Oh, you wrote people's papers for money?" I said, "No, I typed them."
Yeah.
And he didn't understand the difference.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he's like, "If you typed it, you wrote it." I'm like, "No,
No.
No, yeah.
we wrote it out,
Yeah.
and then you typed it."
Right, and when I was in college back in mid to late '80s, one of my roommates, his dad had a pawn shop, and he came in. Never will forget this, for this thing that looked like a big old suitcase, but it was a word processor that you could type on and store on a floppy disk
Yep.
all your progress, where that cut down on the writing and having to do both. But yeah, whew, times have changed
Yes,
now.
they have.
Now they've got, the AI piece that basically you can say, hey, I need a paper on, and then it'll,
Generate for you.
whew,
Yeah.
man, I'd hate to be a teacher having to go through that route, trying to decipher that. So,
Yes.
well, let's talk. This is one of my favorite questions. Okay, so like most embarrassing moment as a teacher. So I'll let one of y'all want to go first.
Oh.
So.
Oh. Well, I taught facts,
Yep.
so it's in the classroom.
Sure.
And I taught science on the side. So, at that time, I was in a classroom trying to do a lab before we went over to the
Oh, yeah.
lab. So, my hair was a little longer.
Yeah.
Bunsen burn. You know where I'm going.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about saying, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
trying to resolve that situation calmly, and it exploded what I was trying to light after it got going, and there was a big, huge yellow,
Oh yeah.
yellow thing on the ceiling. So every year, those stories get handed down
Yeah.
from student
Yeah.
to student.
Oh, yeah.
So the next class that would come in, Miss Shepherd blew something up in class.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's right off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
I've got several cooking
Well,
stories.
hey, you
but-
left your mark, right?
Yes,
Yes.
I did leave my mark.
Well, I hadn't thought about that as a facts teacher. You're up there teaching how to cook or whatever. So what you're saying is, what you cooked maybe didn't turn out right, or kids, or both.
Well, both. I'm showing them how to do it, and then let them in the classroom do it in
Right.
the lab. And maybe it's supposed to go right, but if you're at a demonstration
Right.
table and
Oh, yeah.
something just
Yeah. Right.
didn't go right,
Yeah.
you've got that to deal with. But the one I guess most memorable was when I was trying to light that Bunsen burner.
Yeah.
And the hair kind of got a little too close, so
Yeah.
singe happened, and then whatever I was cooking in my beaker, it exploded, and it went straight up, and the kids are around, so I'm thinking, oh gracious, this is not going to be good.
Well, I've got similar stories that
Okay.
didn't happen to me, but I have a cousin's wife that teaches in Bismarck, Leah. And, when she started out in Murfreesboro, her claim to fame was same thing, but her hair actually caught on fire. They're like, Miss Beck, with your hair? Like, no, it's not. But she said, oh, expletive, and then she had to beat the kids to the principal and say, look, I did say it, but here's why. And he was like, well, that's probably better than what I would have said.
Yes.
And then when I was a principal at Lakeside, the old Vena hood with the glass on
Yes.
it. There was one physics teacher in there. Same thing blew up, but we had a student that got a shard of glass.
Oh no.
And they had everybody had their eyeglass
Yes.
things on, but I don't know how that happened. So anyway, student comes down again. She's a senior, and so I said, well, I'll call your mom, have her meet us at the emergency room. So we get down there, and her mom was going to be a little bit getting there. And so I'm sitting out there, and they take her back, and she wasn't back very long, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. And he said, she wants you back there. I was like, oh, okay. I said, usually high school girls want you on the other end of campus. So she was like, I'm just nervous till my mom gets here. I said, I got you.
Gotcha.
So, but anyway.
Well, I would say mine, embarrassing would be as in PE when I was trying to demonstrate a skill and could not do it to save my life. But my funniest story that is not really embarrassing, it's just kind of funny with kids, that I was pregnant and I was teaching PE and health, so I wore baggy clothes, and I hadn't really told the kids or anything because, and one day I had to dress up, so I had on like a dress up thing, and I will never forget this little cutest blonde-headed boy, cutest thing. I got up to talk, and I heard him lean over to his neighbor, and he said, our teacher got fat overnight. And it just, then I couldn't, I heard it, and it tickled me, and and then of course I told him, but it was just, and he was not trying to be mean. He was not trying to say where I could hear him, but he just was like amazed, because overnight,
Right.
it was really funny.
Well, so, being from Arkadelphia, the town itself, it's changed quite a bit, right? The landscape.
It has a lot. We've got a lot of new buildings that we didn't have.
Right.
But then we've got several that have
Right.
changed, and with
Yeah.
the new roadway that's going
Yeah.
to be going through,
Right.
we're going to have a little bit more.
Right.
And they've made a lot of progress.
They
Over
have.
there on Pine Street, if you look kind of back, over between Big Red, you can kind of already see where the bypass is going.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
you'll have to
well,
look.
Yeah, I'll have to go out that way.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing I think that I do like about Arkadelphia, I mean, they are progressive, honestly, but yet it still has that small town feel to it, you know. And, you know, we get lots of folks that come in the summer for trainings and stuff, and that's the one thing, you know, that I hear over and over.
Yes.
Is and the other part of that is it still amazes me just how friendly for the most part, you know, like you know, I've had 2 or 3 elderly women, I'll say, or experienced women stop and just tell me how grateful they are when we do little things like the landscaping and that kind of stuff, you know. Hey, it looks so good down here. And so but yeah, I mean, to me that's one of the things that sets this apart from other cities and towns, if you will. So
I think we're a close-knit
Yeah.
community, and maybe Shasta could say that, but if there's like something major happens,
Yeah.
catastrophe or something, everybody
Right.
is on board. When we had that huge tornado
yeah,
back in 1997, I think it was, everybody was
Right.
all hands on
Oh,
deck
yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to help. But I hear so many of the people coming to Dawson for
Right.
workshops. Hey, they've got the cutest little shops down
Oh,
here
yeah.
on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard one lady say the other day, we're not from here, but we're going to have to take a vacation to Arkadelphia so
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
go down
Yeah.
and shop. And I think
Yeah.
what we take for granted is the
Absolutely.
lakes.
Oh,
We have
for sure.
so
Yeah.
the lakes and the rivers here. We
Yeah.
have beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful
Oh,
environment.
Yeah,
with
and,
it.
and that's kind of, I mean, I don't necessarily live in downtown Hot Springs, but, you know, driving through there, I told my wife again the other day, I said, it just amazes me the number of people on the sidewalks coming here. And I said,
Absolutely.
you know, I guess if we weren't from here, you know, it wouldn't be such a big deal. And you know, Oaklawn's a big draw, but again, not for me, because that was the thing. You ditched school in high school and kind of snuck in when you could, you know. So it wasn't not a big deal to me. But Oaklawn, I mean, obviously is much more than a racetrack now. So it's, but yeah, I mean, progress. What are you gonna do, right?
Oh, I know. And Mary and Martha is right next door here.
Yeah.
They
Oh, yeah.
really changed that
Yeah,
building up
yeah,
over there.
Yeah, and I was glad to see that. I mean, you know, of course, we've got a huge downtown footprint, and so it kind of keeps us on our toes to make sure, you know, our storefront, if you will, is up to par.
Right.
We've got a big project we're getting ready to kick off here in a couple of weeks, actually, I hope so. But what about this? Best piece of advice that you were given going into education, and then the best piece of advice you would give today?
The best piece of advice I have been given is put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Mhm.
Every child is not the same.
Right.
And I guess empathy, number one, always look at it from their standpoint and how
Right.
you can make it better.
Right.
I've been put in that situation so many times mad,
Yep.
but then think about it and, okay, wait, April, you're looking at it wrong.
Right.
Look at it from another angle, from their angle. So that's probably the best advice
Mhm.
that I have received, and let's see, the advice I would give.
Mhm.
I'd probably give that very same advice back, because so many of our students, they have things that they haven't shared, that they're hiding, that affects their schools, that affects their whole livelihood.
Right.
If they can just connect to one person and that
Yep.
one person make a difference,
Oh yeah.
then
Yeah.
sometimes that's all it takes for that
Yeah.
person to succeed in life.
Yeah. And I know in time that I've done this, you know, I said early on, you know, if I have the opportunity and blessing one person, you know, I mean, it will have been worth it, you know.
Yes.
But I can't tell you the number of, you know, kids that have, I say kids, grown adults, you know,
Yes.
that come up and say, hey, you know, remember this, and this is how it affected that. And I mean, it's truly a rewarding career, no doubt about it. So,
I think that's the most rewarding for me,
Yeah.
is that when kids grown adults come back to me and say, Miss Shepherd, I remember in class when I had you, and you did this for me. I have forgotten, but
Right.
that's
Oh, yeah.
something that they carried
Yeah.
with them,
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
they still carry with them. And then I'm
Yeah.
thinking, you know what, I did make a difference. You don't
Yeah.
realize
Right.
how much difference you make in people's
Right.
lives.
Yeah.
So it's my motto: make every day count.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So what about you?
Well, I would say the best advice that I was given is that to not listen to what other teachers say about a certain kid.
Oh, yeah.
And because I was a PE teacher, I had all
Mhm.
the kids. And of
Right.
course, the teachers would come and they'd drop them off and be like, you better, Johnny's having a day today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I found was that the little Johnnies excelled in my class
Right.
because it was PE.
Yeah.
And so, you know, not just because the teacher had them last year or, you know, this, like, don't just,
Yeah.
you know, give every kid a chance,
Mhm.
is what the best advice I was given. And then the best advice that I would give, I have a lot, but I think the first one would be to learn to pick your battles.
Mhm.
Very early, I see a lot of teachers that, you know, they decide that this is going to matter and they fight for it.
Right.
And in the big, you know, I always say, I'm like, what is the end result you want?
Yeah.
Can you get it
Yeah.
a different way?
Right.
Because sometimes when you decide that, hey, I'm standing my ground,
Yeah.
the kids stand their ground, and everybody loses.
Right.
So if you
Yeah.
can figure that out early on, I think you're going to save yourself a lot
Oh, yeah.
of trouble.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is just picking those battles.
Yeah. And then, you know, I think too, you know, another thing to think about is, you know, if you only knew then what you know now, kind of
Yes.
thing,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
You know, life as a teacher would have been a lot easier, right?
100%.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate y'all for coming in today. I keep forgetting. I know people get tired of hearing this probably, but I'm always interested in what's on everybody's playlist.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's on your playlist? What are you listening to right now?
Right now, it's K-Love.
Yeah,
That's
gotcha.
my go-to every day. When it's a
Right.
bad day, it's K-Love.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I do too some days, and then I'll be driving Little Rock in that monstrosity of a mess over in Bryant and Benton,
Oh, yeah.
and then I'll say a few colorful words,
Explicit, yeah.
and then I'll have to slip in some classic rock to kind of, take the edge off, if you will.
Yeah. Well,
That's right.
I'm a country girl, so I listen to Bobby Bones in the morning. That,
Yeah, yeah.
Kissing in the afternoons. I do K-Love.
Yeah, shout out
Um,
Dawson Co-op, right? We got to send him some Dawson swag. So
We do.
Yeah,
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes.
I thought about that when I was
Yeah.
in Mountain Pine this
Right.
week. And then as far as podcasts, I love true crime. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing like the 2020
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
When I exercise, I listen to those. And
Yeah. Well, and true crime is one of those things I listen to. Everybody thinks, well, that's dark. And I'm like, no, it's interesting.
It is very interesting.
Because Beth actually turned me on to a couple that actually happened in Arkansas. And I can't remember the name of the podcast right now. But, yeah.
I think she told me about that one too.
Yeah, and they were really interested because one of them was in Northeast Arkansas, and I'm like, oh, I remember that store. I
Yes.
remember, because that's where I got my bachelor's in Jonesboro, so, and some of the small towns around there, so it's pretty interesting stuff. So, all right, well, appreciate y'all coming in, and see, both of y'all survived, right?
Thank you, yeah.
And remember, if we're still looking for Candace's replacements, and make a comment down below. We're voting, so we're just putting it out
Shasta.
there. So yeah. So that's right, exactly. All right.
Thanks
Well,
for
thank you
having me.
coming in. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Spilling the Tea in Studio D.